Happy Wednesday, folks. My name is Kendra Vandruff from Kendra Vandruff Watercolors, and today we are going to be painting a sequoia tree from Sequoia National Park. I love these trees. They are some of the largest and oldest trees in the world, and they only grow in California and Sequoia National Park, and I cannot wait to teach you how to paint your very own. So without further ado, let's get painting. Let's get started on our sequoia tree. I am going to first do a very loose outline of the base trunk of our tree. I've got some brown here already, but I'm just going to go ahead and mix some burnt umber with a little bit of burnt sienna. Alright, so once I have those two colors mixed, I'm just going to do a very loose outline of the base of our trunk. And you can tell I'm keeping this line very irregular. You don't want it to be perfectly rounded. Let's expand that just a little bit there. Alright, now next I'm just going to do the outline of this outside trunk here, and I'm angling it slightly so it's slightly angled in, and I'm going to just mirror that on the other side. Now from there I'm just going to use the rest of the paint that I just mixed just to kind of do a base coat of the bottom of this trunk. If you need to mix some more of this color, you definitely can do that. And again, it's burnt umber and burnt sienna. And I use the brand Winsor and Newton, but feel free to use what you've got on hand. Okay, so from this point, I want to start to put down some of our greenery, and the reason is because if I painted the tree bark all the way up to the top of the tree first, I could cut into some of the green foliage that I want to be in front of the trunk. So we're just going to get the layout done of our greenery, and then from there we'll start to fill in the tree. Okay, so for our greenery, we are going to use some olive green. It's a nice kind of earthy Winsor and Newton color. And I'll start with just using this color on its own before mixing it with another color. Okay, so I'm going to have some foliage off to the right here, off some over to the left, maybe slightly higher than the other one before that. And I'm just using kind of the tip of my brush just to get some irregular shapes here. So this is very loose. And towards the bottom, the kind of blobs of greenery are a lot smaller, and as we work our way up, we will start to increase the density of the green foliage. Keep in mind that we are working super loose, and the more irregular you have the silhouette of the green foliage, the better. We don't want perfect, greenery that's like a broccoli head on top, where it's very symmetrical and perfectly round. We want this to be kind of more loose and irregular, because that's kind of how it looks in nature. So there's not as much of a perfect symmetrical tree all the time, or at least especially in a national park. And as you can see here, I've got kind of a slight cone shape happening. So it's a little bit wider towards the middle, and then it gradually gets just a little bit more narrow towards the top. Now, while this is slightly still wet, I'm going to mix some olive green with a little bit of Prussian Blue. And I just want to deepen this color a bit. So I'm just going to add some blue into it just to give it a little bit more of a cooler tone and some more depth. Love that color. So again, while this is still slightly wet in some areas, I'm just going to go through and add just a little bit of shading by applying with the tip of my brush this blend of Prussian Blue and olive green. Okay, so once you have your olive green and then your blend of olive green and Prussian Blue laid out as the foliage of the tree, go ahead and just let this dry, stretch a little bit, go grab a cup of water. Once it's dry, then we can start working our way into the details of the sequoia tree trunk. Okay, so our green foliage on our tree is now dry. Let's go ahead and start painting the tree bark. I have our burnt sienna and burnt umber still here a bit, but I'm just going to go ahead and mix just a little bit more. Okay, so I'm going to just start by outlining. I don't know what kind of accent that was right there, but I'm going to go ahead and start outlining the edge of our tree here. And again, I'm slightly angling in just a little bit more as I go up. And I'm just letting my brush touch where the white spaces are in the gaps of the foliage. There we go. So now you can kind of see vaguely the outline. Before we move on, I'm just going to go ahead and continue to do our base coat here. That looks a hair bit light, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more burnt umber into this blend. There we go. And now I'm just going to go in and just fill in this white center of our tree trunk. Okay, so now that we've got the trunk laid out, we have some floating green bits of foliage that are not even connected to the tree. I don't know if, Wingardium Leviosa from Harry Potter got placed on them or something. If you don't know that reference, I do apologize. But anywho, we need to add some connecting branches to these floating bits of greenery. Let's get started with that. Okay, so using that same color combo, I'm just going to go ahead and loosely add some connecting branches to start. So I'm basically doing a couple lines with this brown color here. Maybe I'll have a second small branch that's connected to this bit of foliage over here. So it almost looks like a sideways Y shape. Maybe a little dab of brown, that little white bit there. Alright, next I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing over here, and I'm kind of going to be showing how this branch on the left and right side is in the front of the tree, or rooted in the front of the tree. This guy here has the branch directly behind it, so I'm not going to add a branch towards the bottom of it. Alright, now next I'm going to do a small branch over here. It's okay if your branch kind of bleeds out just a little bit. If your trunk is still wet, we're going to add some finer details in a minute that'll help make that a little bit more defined. Maybe a little brown bit there, maybe a little here, right there. There we go. Let's do maybe just a couple brown lines in this area here, maybe one connecting this foliage there. So we're just trying to give the impression of this foliage being connected to the tree. Okay, so there's our loose connecting branches. Let's go ahead and start to add some more finer details. Okay, so our sequoia trunk has dried. Now let's add some finer details to the trunk and add some texture. Okay, so we've got our burnt umber, burnt sienna combo, and I want to just deepen it a little bit by adding some lamp black. So now it's just going to be a little bit darker. First thing I want to do is I want to add almost like a cave silhouette towards the bottom of this trunk. What's really cool about a sequoia tree is that a lot of them have almost this like little cave towards the bottom, and I imagine it's where like Gollum would maybe live from Lord of the Rings, or if you're not into creepy Gollum, maybe a really cute tree fairy. So I'm just using this color real quick to fill in and deepen that cave, and then I'm going to go ahead and rinse my brush a little bit and add just some straight lamp black into this. Definitely want this to be the darkest part of the artwork itself. Okay, so now that I've gotten that part done, I'm going to go ahead and start to vaguely outline the edge of our tree. And at this point, I'm really going to start to use the tip of my brush just to start adding some irregular texture to the tree. I think I even want to darken it just even a bit more, so I'm going to add just a little bit more lamp black into here. There we go. So I really want the edges in the cave to have some depth. And using the color I just applied to the edge, I'll go ahead and lift it just a bit and bring it towards the center. So just kind of using an up and down motion to get some texture. Okay, so real quick, I do want to vaguely outline using the tip of my brush the cave here, the Gollum cave, and I'm just using the tip of my brush just to give it a little bit more definition and just very loosely, kind of whimsically, adding a wavy line as a silhouette on the outside. Okay, so from there, I'm going to do the same thing I did on the left side of this tree and add an outline towards the right. I'm going to add a little bit more burnt sienna to this color. I kind of want to get some elements of almost a brick tone. Sequoias have kind of like a nice reddish brown tinge, so I'm just going to add a little bit of that to our color just to let it pop and be a bit more vibrant and less muddy. Okay, so from there, I'm going to take a little bit of lamp black and mix it to part of this color, not the whole color, but just part of it. And I'm just going to outline the edges of this branch here with that shade because I really want the branch to pop. So I just go on the bottom very delicately with light pressure with my hand and apply just a subtle outline just to help define our branches here. Then from there, maybe I'll add just some deeper vertical loose lines in the trunk just to have some areas that have more definition and shading. Maybe I'll re-outline this cave just a bit more. Okay, now let's start working our way up. And again, kind of working in vertical brush strokes. I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit of that lamp black brown on the edges here. Then I'll add just a few bits of that deeper color just to stand out in the texture of the tree. Okay, so let's go ahead and outline this branch over to the left. Just a little bit on the top and bottom. And from there, let's go ahead and add some texture as we've been doing all the way through the trunk of the rest of the sequoia tree. Okay, so now I'm just going to go through and add some defining touches and more texture to the tree, maybe define the cave a bit more, but I'm just going to go through and make sure I'm adding some more bold textures so that way the tree bark really pops. Alrighty, so here's our finished sequoia tree. I loved painting this artwork. I think it's such a fun artwork to try, just focusing on one single subject, and that is one of our Sequoia National Park trees. These trees are so iconic, especially for California, being that they are the only place that they grow. Pretty cool. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Be sure to subscribe so that way you don't miss any future tutorials, and check out the description below for my art supply list, and I hope to see you in the next tutorial.